Hello again. At 11 o'clock today, the 11th of November in 2016, all around the UK and Britain, people observed a 2-minute silence. They were remembering the people who died, gave their lives, or were injured in the Great War of 1914-18 and the Second World War in 1939 to 45, and all the succeeding wars, and of course wars have continued to rage on, but primarily not in Western Europe and not in the United States of America and those nations who are of European heritage. It's to be regretted that in many cases people from the West have instigated or been involved in wars in different parts of the world, wars that rage on today. But in our nations, in the Western European world, we've experienced peace, and it's because of that we're able to commemorate, or perhaps because of that we do commemorate, the great sacrifice made by tens of thousands, indeed millions of men and women in battles gone by, who fought, they believed, to secure our peace, our freedom, our safety. And now, today, on the 11th of November 2016, after keeping that 2-minute silence, reflecting on what's actually happened in just the last few days, we can see that that peace that we've so long enjoyed over 70 years is a threat. And it's a threat because the power balances in the world have shifted. Donald Trump, who was just 2 days ago elected, or became President-elect of the United States of America, hasn't taken office yet and will not until the 20th of January. But believe me, the tables are turning all around the tables of power in different countries of the world. And so we're going to see marked changes happening. So the Voice of Prophecy magazine, you will remember, is what we're looking into on this Wake Up Britain and America channel in the main, because this magazine was sent to many of the world leaders who now will be sitting around those tables that I was talking about, working out where they're going to take their countries, the new power dimension that has been opened up by the reckless, and I do say reckless policies espoused by the President-elect of the United States concerning how he's going to change America's role in the world. And those leaders, or many of these leaders, have received or were sent this magazine in 2008 and some in 2006. The Queen, including as the Prime Minister at the day, so that would have included in Britain John Major, and after him Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. Barack Obama was sent one of these, as was Nelson Mandela, who, interestingly, of all the world leaders, and he wasn't in office at that time, is the only one who wrote back to acknowledge receipt and to thank me for this. In here, on the very last page, or the last but one page, this is on page 34, and there's an article. I say an article, it's more like an illustration really, right at the bottom of the page, and it's a diagram, lifted, I have to admit, from a magazine published by an organisation that I used to be a part of, and it's entitled The Seven Seals of Revelation. And you can see that there are some coloured, I've made some alterations to the diagram, but you can see there's some coloured boxes there, and I'm going to put this up on the Voice of Prophecy Facebook page, so you'll be able to study it in detail. But the coloured boxes, there are 6 of them, and they go through the first 6 seals. And the last of those 6 seals is the heavenly signs. And you will remember that there was quite a lot of interest, certainly in the religious and prophetic community, about the 4 blood red moons that we've experienced over the last several years. But these seals are working their way through prophecies in the book of Revelation. And I'm not going to read in detail from there for the first 6 seals, but I want to concentrate on what happens after this 6th seal, which is the heavenly signs, which I've linked to the 4 eclipses and the blood red moons that we've recently witnessed around the world. Because here in Revelation, or chapter 8 verse 1, that there is silence in heaven for a half hour. And what does that silence mean? Well, I'd like to just quickly look, because this is just before the beginning of the 7 trumps. Yes. So in here, the 6th seal is dealt with in Revelation 6 and in verses 12 to 17. So if I have a quick look over there, in Revelation 6, 12 to 16, it says, I looked, and when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun and moon became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. So this is obviously an event that John, because John is the author, the Apostle John is the author of the book of Revelation, is seeing in a vision. And the stars of heaven fell onto the earth, and the fig tree dropped its late figs. So it seems to be saying it's at the fruitful time of the year, the latter part of the year, what the Americans would call the fall, what we in Britain would call the autumn, when it was shaken by the mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. So this is a huge earthquake. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the commanders, and the mighty men, every slave and every man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks and the mountains. So it's such a cataclysmic earthquake that people are in fear of their lives all around the world. All right, after that time, dropping down then to verse 17, verse 16, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall upon us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So this is a reference to him that sits on the throne and the wrath of the Lamb, Jesus Christ. For the great day, in verse 17, of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? So it's again referring to a time when Jesus Christ comes to judge the world, as I say on the back page, and said to people to whom I sent this Voice of Prophecy magazine, judgment now is on the leaders of the Western world. And again, this went out in 2008, and there are 36 pages of a lot of detailed exposition of what has happened in the Western world and what God is calling people to task about.
Now, in the 21st century, humanity stands on the brink of a precipice, about to plunge into an endless abyss. God created us. Only God can save us through the power of his Son, our soon-coming King, Jesus the Christ. May God grant you love, peace, and understanding.